Most people don't realize how much their personal information is being bought and sold every day. Data brokers are making billions pulling details about you from public records and the internet, and then packaging and selling it, usually without your consent. That's how your information lands in the hands of scammers, spammers, even stalkers. It's why you get endless robocalls and why ads seem to follow you everywhere. That's where Aura comes in. Aura actively removes your data from broker sites and keeps it off. They also instantly alert you if your information shows up in a breach or on the dark web. But Aura goes beyond data protection. With one app, you get a VPN, antivirus, password manager, spam call protection, dark web monitoring, and even up to $5 million in identity theft insurance. All backed by 24/7 US-based fraud support. Other companies might sell just credit monitoring or just a VPN. Aura gives you all of it, together, at the same price competitors charge for just one service. Start your free trial today at aura.com/remove. Protect yourself now at aura.com/remove.
Welcome back to the Paranorm Girl podcast. I am your host, Kristen. Ghosts can sometimes be found in the last place that you'd suspect. We've come to expect them in places like abandoned hospitals, old prisons, dilapidated, deserted houses. But thanks to tonight's guest, we might consider another hotspot when we're shopping around for our next investigation. Somewhere a bit more simple on the surface. Buildings where people gathered for weddings, for meetings, for legal proceedings, for entertainment. A one-stop shop for our communal needs. Places of high traffic and, at times, high emotion. Meant to bring a community together. But apparently, some in the community choose never to leave. Tonight's guest has spent years investigating the paranormal. He serves as assistant director for the Searcher Group, Canada's longest-running paranormal research and investigation team. He is also an author, and you may recall him appearing on the show previously. He was alongside Richard Palmisano, and they came on to join me and talk about their new book, The Complete Paranormal Investigation Handbook, an excellent resource for investigators out there. But tonight, we are highlighting his debut solo publication, Haunted Town Halls, which catalogs evidence and communication from beyond that was captured during a multi-year, multi-town hall investigatory tour. Welcoming back to the program, Mr. Peter Rowe.
Good evening.
Did you like that?
I loved it. Thank you.
It's only when you go live, you got to just immediately run off the off screen.
Sure. Much appreciated. Thank you.
Yes. Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you so much for joining me again. This is awesome.
Well, it's great to be back.
We had our little pre-chat jam sesh, and I've been excited to talk to you just on your own. I really enjoyed the book, of course. It was just excellently put together, and I've just got a lot of questions about it. So we'll get to that. But I'm thinking, just to start out, since this is your first solo time on the show, if you wouldn't mind, we might have talked about it before, but just give us just a brief reintroduction to yourself and kind of little backstory on Peter.
Sure, absolutely. Well, the first question I'm asked most is, how did you get started or get into this interest or this subject? Just very quickly, it was a fascination through my childhood that I I'm not quite sure where it came from, except maybe Casper cartoons. The idea that we might be able to fly and float through walls after we leave this mortal coil. So I read up a lot of books on spirits and ghosts, mostly out of England. As you can appreciate, they have a prevalence of ghosts there, with castles and manors and all kinds of spooky goings on there. Scared the hell out of me then. But then in '84, we all got a chance to sort of laugh at the subject with the release of Ghostbusters. So that was I was a super fan of that for a long time. And then fast forward again to the early 2000s, where my wife bought us tickets to a ghost walk in Niagara-on-the-Lake, Ontario, at Fort George, which I highly recommend. So there's my plug. And what that tour did for me was not only was it kind of cool to go into a haunted fort after hours with a guide and a candle lantern, that kind of thing. So to go into a place after hours in the dark, which isn't normal, when you tour it during the day, but also to hear stories from the guides there who were telling us about whole families that lived at the fort. And what really twigged for me was the idea that we were learning history as we were sort of looking out the corners of our eyes, looking for these people that they're talking about in spirit form, who might, be looking around a corner at any moment. So, and I thought that was an amazing way to teach history and get people's attention, because it got my attention. I didn't care for history in school at all. But now I have a whole new appreciation for it. And so in my own way, I'm hoping that by doing this work and talking about it publicly, that somebody else will be inspired as well, and look at history and heritage as a very human ideal or concept, not just names and dates. And these people existed. And by doing this work, we have a unique opportunity to meet them and hopefully learn from them, not only what their stories might be, but hopefully in our case, in the Searcher Group's case, we're learning how life after life works, as far as what to expect after we leave the physical body. So I should probably say at this point, I go on tangents a lot, so I'll try to keep focused on your question. But that's sort of, I said it was going to be a short story, but it turned longer. And I've been doing this, I would say professionally, since 2010, after finding Richard through one of his books. And he invited me along to a couple of investigations that he was doing in the late 2010s. And he invited me on board at the end of 2010 to be a full-time member.
Okay.
I've been doing it ever since professionally. It took me a while to find a group that took the subject seriously and wasn't looking for YouTube hits, like, oh, look at me, we found an orb, it's a ghost, and things like that, and sensational stuff. I wasn't interested in that. I was interested in the more serious, nitty gritty, what can we learn from this kind of details.
Yeah. And the Searcher Group is definitely that it is a very serious group. They do a lot of things. I often call back to the Searcher Group and how the Searcher Group does things when I'm talking to other investigators, because they're just, it's good, solid, sound logic to do things a certain way. And I just want to call back to, nobody appreciates history when they're in grade school or school. Nobody likes history. You can't appreciate it until much later. I've learned. But yeah, you love history as you get older. It's interesting. So I did not know that, or maybe I forgot that from our first conversation. How you said you met Richard through one of his books?
That's right. Yeah. After the fort tour and my around the same time, Most Haunted was coming over the pond from the UK, and so I thought, oh my gosh, people are actually doing this, and for in real life, this investigating. I mean, I'd always read about Harry Price and his famous Borley Rectory case in England, and Peter Underwood is another British author, and Hans Holzer in the US. But here in the 2000s, there were people actually doing this, and it was on TV, so that was kind of cool. And I guess that's kind of started the reality TV craze. but again, tangent. I went to my library again and found Richard's second book, Journeys into the Unknown.
Mhm.
And at the back of the book, I mean, not only were the stories chilling and thrilling, but at the back of the book, he included a theory that we have talked about before on your show, the memory bubble or the memory matrix theory.
Yeah.
And I thought, here's a guy who's like thinking, well, out of the bubble, out of the box. And because I hadn't heard any other sort of new theories since, the 1910s, 1940s. And people were just seemed to be recycling the same theories in their work. But here was a guy who was thinking past that and thinking of new materials. So luckily at the time he lived about maybe 40 minutes away from me. So I got his contact information and interviewed him. But what I didn't realize was he was interviewing me at the same time and sort of assessing whether I might be, searcher group material down the road. So
Hmm.
I think it worked.
It did. I think it did work out. And now that's so funny. I was going to ask you about that. You get to be a part of that now. Like every time I check
Right.
in
Yeah. Mhm.
with Richard or hear from him, like he seems to be working up a
Mhm.
new theory
Yes.
and then going and testing that theory. And
Mhm.
I know
Mhm.
now, you guys are involved in that, tinkering around with the new theory and experimenting with it.
That's right.
Can you share anything recently that you've been working on?
Um, I'm well. I'm going. Here I go, stumbling over my words. He has invited me to take part in a new experiment. Actually, in a couple of weekends, we're going to be testing a new theory of his that he's developing a new book around. So I won't be able to reveal what that is yet. So hopefully it'll work out and he'll get the results that he's hoping to achieve. But yeah, no, as far as his brain goes and coming up with new theories, he's always like
Yeah.
working on something.
Hmm.
And I think that was another big draw for me was I want to be around this guy when he comes up with an amazing uh, and like another great theory or idea that um, when tested will come to fruition. So I want to be a
Hmm.
part of that magic. So
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, it's incredible to see it like, play out like
hmm
that. Like
hmm
with the memory bubble thing and people start to take notice
right.
of something like that. And you're absolutely right. Like these foundational or like monumental shifts in paranormal theory, a lot
hmm
of them took place back, in the early 1900s. And then it's just like like just this desert tundra of like, okay, what's new? Like, I mean, we got to
hmm
keep
hmm
we got to keep going. And then for Richard to come out of left field, and he's been doing it forever. But
hmm hmm
yeah, and I'm glad to see him get recognition for his brain whenever that
I hope
happens. And,
so.
and you guys are, yeah, you're a huge part of that. Well, speaking of being involved in such, I
hmm
wanted to ask you. There was an announcement that I saw earlier this year that the Searcher Group had just announced their new think tank division called
hmm
the
hmm
Lab. And I,
Yes.
I I didn't know if that was like a public facing thing, like come be part of this, or what that was all about. Can you kind of talk
Well,
about
yeah,
that?
I think Richard has put a name to our think tank and called it the Lab. But I would not be surprised if he would be receptive to people contacting him through our
Mhm.
website, thesearchergroup.ca, um, and floating some ideas and theories to bandy about because we're all about, and we explain this in the investigation manual that you alluded to earlier. We're all about collaboration, not competition. We're about collaborating with like-minded teams or individuals and hearing their ideas about how this life after life process may work. So, love to hear from them and contribute to our think tank. I'm sure.
Okay.
Um,
Okay. Yeah, I can't wait to see
we,
what comes of that. Yeah.
yeah, me too. I mean, he's put this memory bubble theory out there for years now, and I think we have yet to. I mean, he may disagree, but I have never heard of anyone coming to him and either dismissing it or saying, no, that doesn't work. What do you think of this kind of thing? I don't think anyone has actually stepped up and shared an alternate theory or an addition to the theory. So perhaps having the lab open will encourage somebody to look at the material he's put out there and say, no, that doesn't work. Or, yeah, but have you considered this? This is how we'll learn, by conversing about
Yeah,
the
yeah.
theory.
Okay, I got you. All right, and I just had one more thing I wanted to
Sure.
get out there before we get into the book and the haunted town hall
Sure.
tour. If some folks might not be familiar with this, so if they don't know, you are the director of another paranormal group. It's called Mortal
Mhm.
Coil Paranormal,
Mhm.
and you guys get up to a lot of your own shenanigans and such. Can you tell us a little bit about that group and
Sure.
any upcoming investigations?
Yep. Well, Mortal Coil Paranormal came about in late 2018 um, when Richard moved the home office from the Greater Toronto area eastward. So he looked at me and said, well, somebody's got to look after the Toronto, southwestern Ontario area. And we'd already had previously discussed me starting a subdivision of the
Mm-hmm.
Searcher Group. So with a nod to Hamlet, I thought Mortal Coil. And I thought, okay, I've got to tack paranormal on there too, so people know what we're talking about. So
Mm-hmm.
MCP, and that's how that came about. Yeah, I've got a couple of exciting sort of announcements. I guess they're not really exciting until we have results to share, but I'm very happy that 2026 is shaping up to be very productive so far. I've had two very large projects or clients making arrangements in the past year or so, and they're finally coming together. Two huge, large-scale projects that I'm looking forward to. This being a bit of a challenge to lead, but after leading the town hall tour, which that's my segue, then I think we'll get some really interesting results from both these places. Of course, I can't reveal where they are just yet. And that doesn't happen until I get permission from the clients, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, 2026 is shaping up not just for myself, but the other subdivision of Searcher Group as well. But maybe we can leave off with news on that front.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, that's you guys are, I don't know, busy dudes. So busy.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
yes, it does sound like 2026 is going to be a really stellar year for you guys. So I'm
I
excited.
hope
I,
so.
I will keep my ears and eyes peeled to hear
I
all
hope
the
so.
doings. All right. Yes. Your segue. Let's talk about the haunted town halls and those
Absolutely.
investigations. So, like I said in your bio up at the top there, town halls are not exactly the first place I would
No,
think
no,
of when
no.
I think paranormal or haunted, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Me
And
neither.
okay, all right, good. We're off to a good start with this because two and a half years just about of focus on this kind of location. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that's a lot. So I guess help me understand it. Let's start from the beginning. How did this all come together?
Oh, sure. I think the year was 2014, so that's going way back now. Um, I was intrigued enough by a local town hall in newspaper articles that were written about it. They would not always, but they would sometimes mention that they have a ghost of a former caretaker in this little town called Acton, Ontario, just maybe about 15 minutes away from my town, Georgetown. Anyway, so Acton still has their original town hall, and I was really impressed by they're mentioning that, yeah, we have a ghost. We think his name is Jimmy. He was a former caretaker, is still doing his job, looking after the place. And I thought, well, that's amazing. I don't know about the U.S. so much, but here in Canada, there's still a stigma about admitting that you have a ghost on your
Oh,
property. So to read that publicly, I was just like, wow, that's cool. Anyway, after I joined the Searcher Group and we were doing a couple of jobs in my hometown, I thought I'd like to revisit that Acton town hall. So I got in touch with the manager. I said, "This is who we are. We're reputable. We've been around for a long time. How about it?" And he said, "Sure." And he gave us the key. And he didn't even supervise us. He just gave us the key and let us into the building. That's the kind of reputation we've earned and trust that we've earned. So we appreciate that. And so I think there were 4 or 5 of us that on the first night that we investigated the Acton Town Hall. It's not used as a town hall anymore, but it is used. There's the theater there's a stage there, and it's used for large events and that kind of thing. But James, one of my co-investigator, James McCullough, he at one point he suggested, "Hey, we could do the Paris Town Hall, Paris, Ontario, not France." But he was inspired, and I thought, well, that would kind of make for an interesting experiment. We, as a group, the Searcher group is well known not only for being the oldest in Canada, but we're also known for doing long-term investigations, not this 1 or 2 nights and then move on to the next one. We tend to stay as long as we can in one place because we glean more information that way. And so I thought, well, wouldn't it be an interesting experiment to try our luck and our skills by doing short-term investigations and making a theme of it by investigating town halls across southwestern Ontario. Ontario, unfortunately, has a very bad reputation for demolishing buildings left and right. So our heritage is diminishing quite quickly, quite rapidly, unfortunately. So I had about a dozen town halls that I could that I and the team could reach, logistically speaking, and about 5 of them responded, 5 or 6, and they ended up being on a 2.5-year tour. We visited each place a maximum of 2 times, with one exception, and a book came out of it, a 320-page book. So suffice it to say, we picked up a lot of information, a lot of stories to come from our investigations, and a lot of data that I hope we'll get around to talking about tonight. So
yes, we will. But I'm wondering, do you think that stigma that you referenced did that play a part in like 5 out of 12 responding?
Yes, I think so. As anyone, as any sort of location manager or scout for a team can probably attest to, especially in Canada, getting ghosted on an email, is quite common, especially around here in Ontario. And I'm not quite sure why that is, whether it's a stigma thing or whether the paranormal reality TV craze has frightened away some managers, or even thrill-seeking teams who have, like splashed their results on YouTube or Instagram or whatever, saying, "Look, we've got a ghost here. Well, you trespassed." So that doesn't help groups like us who are legitimate, sort of not get lumped in with them, because a lot of these property managers and keepers don't watch these shows, and so if they see in the news that a group was caught trespassing and they call themselves ghost hunters, then all of them must do that. So unfortunately we've been trying our best to rise above that and share, look, we're reputable, we've been around, we've got published works. And that was one reason for the manual that we wrote too. We were just so frustrated with losing potential work that we thought, okay, let's not moan about it anymore. Let's do something about it. Be proactive and share what we do and how we're successful with it. So There you go, tangent. Um,
You're fine.
yeah, see, I've forgotten your question already, but
No, that's
um,
okay. Yeah. I will say, I think it's lucky. It's great that at least
mhm.
five said
Yes,
yes.
absolutely, yeah.
And it speaks to how you guys operate, that
Mhm.
all of them were willing to, yeah, come back. Let's
Yeah,
have a
yeah.
revisit. That's
Uh-huh.
awesome. Yes.
Mhm.
So, okay. Well, on that note, yes, you did capture a lot of awesome evidence, and had some great
Mhm. Mhm.
interactions. And we are about to dive into it all.
Cool.
To start out, which location is the standout for you? Because I have
Oh
one,
my.
but I want to
Okay.
know what yours.
Okay. Well, each one was unique in its own way, of course. But a standout one, I'm going to have to say Orangeville, Ontario,
Oh,
um, simply for a piece of EVP evidence that we unexpectedly caught. Um, and a lot of this is anyone who does this kind of work can attest to. You can be surprised a lot doing this.
mhm.
You think or you can probably guess how things are going to go throughout a 6 or 8 hour investigation, and oh yeah, I'll get some voices and stuff. But anyway, Orangeville, Ontario,
Okay.
which is actually a town hall that's still being used as a town hall, stands out for me. How about you?
Okay. I really, really liked. I wrote it down because it's like a tongue twister for me. The
Okay.
the old Caledon Township Hall
Okay. Mm-hmm.
specifically. And
Mm-hmm.
I know you did return to it, but that
Mm-hmm.
the
Mm-hmm.
first visit, for multiple reasons. Like, there were
Mm-hmm.
a lot of captures, evidence captures. There was a
Yeah.
lot of intelligent interaction. The
Mm-hmm.
medium that you guys have with you sometimes, she accompanied Joanna, accompanied
Mm-hmm.
you on multiple of these investigations. She
Yeah.
was just so dialed in. I just felt that,
Yeah.
like, reading it. I don't know, but yeah, it just felt like she was just so dialed into this particular location.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
then and
That's true.
then the vortex. Can-
Right.
and I don't ever get to talk to anybody about portals and vortexes, but so I got to
Mhm.
talk about this.
Mhm.
It
Okay.
was the only location that you guys had, that at least you wrote about
Yeah. Hmm.
finding a portal.
Hmm. Hmm.
Talk about that. Well, how do you know? How did you arrive at that conclusion? What does that mean?
Well, it. I mean, the term portal was thrown about as an explanation for a point in the physical space that entities might be coming through. People were feeling um, not necessarily a presence, but they were physically pushed from this point. As I don't know if you can recall, there was that town hall is now serves as a theater for the
Mhm.
local players, amateur theater group, and one of the actors shared with us that on multiple occasions she felt she was being physically pushed only in this one part of the stage.
Mhm.
And then when we brought in a Geiger counter, I think on a subsequent visit, Richard found some very high readings just in this one area. And we looked under the stage, and there was nothing electrical under there at all, nothing human made that could account for this sort of excess radiation or electromagnetic energy. So we just, or a shorthand was possible portal. Like, this might be an area where some things are coming through into that world, into that building,
Mhm.
and exiting as well.
Yeah.
And towards the end of the evening, we caught a voice that, and maybe you want to talk about this later, but we caught a voice that sounded like a child saying "bye," and then,
Mhm.
and it was coming from that stage. We didn't see anything, but we caught it. We heard it as a disembodied voice. Six or
Mhm.
seven of us heard it at once, and we thought it was somebody else saying it because it was in sort of the a familiar or a similar timbre as that person's voice. But we turned to her and said, "Why did you say that?" And she said, "I didn't say anything." So anyway, coming from that stage, there was this area that
Yeah.
was giving off some kind of vibe or energy that we just couldn't place. So
Yeah,
um,
and as I recall too, that particular spot on the stage, it was like scuffed up.
Yeah, that's true
correct?
too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's kind of
So,
strange, but I mean,
not that that has anything to do with the energy, but I wonder, if
no,
it has
but
something to do with
yeah.
the portal, things coming zipping in and out. I
Mhm.
don't know how it works.
Now we could have
Um,
said it was burnt or something like that, but no, it wasn't.
sure. Yeah, I don't know. I don't
No.
know.
See,
Um,
we don't make stuff up. I mean, the real life stuff, it's just as incredible as fiction
yeah,
is. So,
absolutely. Yes. And yeah. Okay. All right. Looking back on it now, do you still you think of it as that was a portal, or have your thoughts changed?
no, no, they haven't changed.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
mean, it's when you do this kind of work, I learned very quickly that anything is possible,
Yep. Hmm.
and so yeah, no, I'm not going to like dismiss it, not out of like ignorance or anything, but we're just going to call it a portal for now until someone says differently, we're completely open to other suggestions as well. So
Okay.
yeah,
Very
no,
cool.
that's quite a standout place.
It is, and then listeners, he would see an apparition there on the return visit. But we're going to leave off on that right
Mhm.
now. Read the
Okay,
book. Um,
please.
so you're going to have to read it to find out. All right, quick nerdy spot for me because I love to talk about
Okay.
equipment with investigators.
Yep.
So
Hmm.
throughout your investigations, you guys, I just really appreciated all the different methods that you applied to specific locations and the
Hmm.
equipment and utilizing pieces of equipment in different ways that I've read about or seen or
Yeah.
done myself. And so, people are going to be more familiar with using things like trigger objects or
Hmm.
you utilized a pendulum a few times, which I
Hmm.
got to do that. That's such a good idea. I got to try that on my next one. One thing that you do that I think other investigators would really benefit from incorporating in their own process is you guys leave your equipment rolling when you leave the
Right.
building for like breaks and stuff.
Yeah. Hmm.
That
Hmm.
that's probably sucks a lot on the outer end when you're editing it because you're going to sit there and either listen to an hour of silence or you're going to
That's
find some
true.
juicy stuff.
That's true.
Um, but it's such a great idea, and you always captured something knocks, raps,
Hmm.
whatever, footsteps. So
Hmm. Hmm.
there's evidence to capture. Now,
Yes.
there were a couple of things that you used, and I had no idea what these are. So hopefully you'll share them with us.
Okay. Yeah.
One of the pieces, Pop-O-Matic bubble. What
Oh
is that, and
yes.
why do you use it? How does it work?
Okay. Well, if for those who aren't familiar with this, do you know what I'm talking about?
I
Okay.
don't.
In the 1970s, this takes me right back. In the 1970s, we had a game called. Okay. There was a family board game called Trouble, and in the middle of the board was a what they called a pop-o-matic bubble, and it's basically a domed container with a die in it,
Okay.
and the bottom of the container has a metal base. So when you press on the plastic, you can see through it. When you press on the plastic dome, it it compressed the metal floor, and when you released it, the metal released as well and rolled the die and kept it inside the bubble, so you can make your moves on the game board using the numbers that came up on the die. So I saw this. My Our daughter had a just the Pop-O-Matic bubble itself without the game on a game shelf years ago, and I looked at it and I thought, well, there you go. There's a contained object that if we could bring it into the ghost field and ask whoever is listening to us to try and manipulate it, and so it's contained. It just made sense to me that it's
Okay.
like a sealed, contained experiment in just this little device, and at first it sort of felt foolish, but I thought, no, let's, I mean, it just seems so simple to me that
Mhm.
and straightforward as a possible trigger object, or if anyone was born after the game Trouble was out, they might recognize it and actually depress the bubble and make the die move that way. Um,
Okay.
and if I can go quickly on a tangent on that, I did leave the bubble in an abandoned house that we were allowed to go into. We didn't trespass. But, but, uh,
Good.
but speaking to like leaving our equipment to record while we leave the property. That's what I did. And I left the dye and the bubble next to my recorder and left for about 8 hours. Came back the next day, collected my equipment, and took it home to analyze. But I got a recording, and I took pictures of the bubble and where the dye was. I think it was like number 3, let's say, was facing upwards. And I remember demonstrating to whoever might have been watching me how to do it, like how to move the dye by either pressing it or shaking it. So I took note of the number, and then, as I say, left, came back, number looked the same. So I thought, bummer, wah, wah. So, but when I listened to the recording, you could hear this. It makes a distinctive sound when it's
The
pressed.
popping.
It's like I'm not going to imitate it now, but it was done audibly. And I thought,
Oh,
that is really cool. So that
interesting.
gets my mind thinking alternate realities. You start
Sure.
talking about ghosts, and we can go on all kinds of
Yes.
wormholes. But it's things like that that really make sort of bringing new ideas into this field really worthwhile. Like you've got to experiment. Using
Yeah.
especially when you're on a budget like we are.
get
Probably,
get get innovative, folks.
yes,
Go into your
that's right.
kids' rooms
That's
and
right.
just take their toys. They won't
Yeah.
notice it gone for a night. Okay.
So that's a long explanation. Yeah, that's right. No,
Oh,
I,
I love that. Because I mean it. Like it's innovative to take something like an everyday item or something you would never initially think to
mhm,
use for
mhm.
something like that. It's a good idea, along with wind chimes.
Yes.
Now,
Mhm, mhm,
it would have never occurred to me to
mhm,
take wind chimes into a haunted location. But
mhm, mhm.
what a genius idea. I don't know
Oh,
whose idea that was, but it's awesome.
I think that actually comes. We can't be credited with that. I think that's a Harry Price
Is it Harry Price?
staple.
Okay.
Yeah,
I had not
I
read
mean,
that before.
I think he did. He was definitely responsible for the powder trap, or what we call the powder
Mhm.
trap, capturing footprints in talcum powder or flour. Um, but wind chimes can be used to detect subtle breezes.
Mhm.
And also act as a trigger object for people who have passed
Sure.
on and are still sticking around in outside of the body, and might be inspired by seeing them again in because they might not be there in their normal
Yeah.
day-to-day life living there,
Yeah.
or afterlife. um, and they might be tempted to mess with them. And
Yeah.
in one location, I know you're thinking of it, Waterford, Ontario.
Mhm.
We did get a result, and it was a really really fascinating experiment that brought us some interesting results. So wind
Mhm.
chimes, bells. I know earlier investigators like Harry Price would string bells across doorways and things like that. Basically, early motion detectors
Mhm. Yeah.
that would leave an audible clue that something was interacting with it. So,
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
it's a good
So,
example. Just goes to show you folks, you don't need to be rich to be
nope.
an
Nope.
investigator. Just, take your wind chimes
Yeah.
in with
Get
you.
creative. Yeah.
Get creative.
Absolutely.
Well, all right. Yeah. And I do have a question for you about something that happened at I think it was Waterford, but
Okay.
that'll be later when we get into the
Okay.
EVP
All
stuff.
right.
Last equipment question I had was just about the EM pumps,
Oh
because
yes. Yes.
you used them like in the last couple investigations.
Hmm.
How's your success with those been?
The hit and miss. Again, these were inspired by gadgets that were on paranormal TV,
Mm-hmm.
and that's probably one of the only pluses that I could credit with paranormal television, personally. But EM pumps, electromagnetic pumps, for those who don't know, there are these little devices that crank out electromagnetic energy, and that's based on the theory that ghosts or spirits, however you want to address them, um, basically feed from that energy in order to manifest themselves. So um, there was a theory, I think, thanks to the paranormal television, that they'll take this energy and use that to manifest themselves either audibly or visibly or both, or
Mm-hmm.
physically, like be able to pull on clothing or push somebody. while they're filming their TV shows. But we built, my brother and I built a number of them. And oh, hang on, this is my battery's running low.
Oh no!
There we go.
I think this happened the
There we
last
go.
last time
Yeah.
too. Oh no! Oh, I think we lost him, folks. He's gonna have to reboot and such. Well, we'll just wait for Mr. Peter to come back. Let's see if I've got anything loaded that I can share with you guys while we wait. Yeah, he's got to go out and come back. That's okay. This whole episode's going to be fully edited for the audio version. We had a rough start to it. I'm so glad he's stuck with me. Oh, you know what? I've got some evidence I captured maybe a couple of years ago. I could play that for you guys, see if he comes back on. Yeah, let's give him a couple of minutes to come back on. In the interim, let me entertain you. So let's see. All right. So this was I can't remember what this one says. It's an EVP I captured, and it took place in a maintenance room. And I hope it's not too loud for you guys, but let me just play that for you and see what you guys think.
All right. It's recording. This one gets within measure. All right. It's recording. This one gets within measure.
Okay, yeah. So you saw the words there on the screen as to what I thought I heard. It's just a weird one because I was with my partner Lee. He was way across the room. I don't know, but he was not in that same room, and it just seems so close, like almost up on the microphone. I don't know. Maybe I'm hearing things, but that was one. And I see Peter wait. Oh, Peter, you're waving. All right, we'll bring Peter back on. We'll have to save the other EVP for another time. All right. There you are. Hi.
Really sorry.
It's okay.
Wow.
You're a little blurry, but that's okay.
It's because I'm flustered. Okay.
Well, we're rolling with it tonight. We're having fun.
Sorry, everybody.
No, you're good.
Those are really cool EVPs, by the way.
I might be, I don't know. It might be playing with my head. I don't know. But yeah, I had another one, and I'm gonna save that for another. I'm glad I had those loaded. All right.
Yeah, apologies.
Well, let's see. It was probably time to move on anyway. That's okay. What else? Yes. Okay, so just a couple more, there were some standout pieces of information, like bits that you said throughout the book that I thought were worthy of discussion. And then let's go ahead and get into the EVP and spirit communication stuff, because that's really interesting. So the first thing you wrote, or I don't know if this is verbatim, it might be in my own words, but you wrote something along the lines of emotion is key to motivating spirit manifestation in the physical realm. I was just curious what you meant by that. Are you talking about investigator emotion?
No, no. The emotions of the spirits that are being investigated. We've found that obviously, the saying "you can't take it with you" applies to your physical, material things when we pass on. But what we are very sure of are three things. One of them is memory. You do take memory with you. You take emotion and choice. We know these things for sure. In the 47 years that the Searcher Group has been in existence. And emotion, getting back to the question, because there's emotion such a funny thing. The smallest trigger can send us all into an emotion that we weren't feeling a second ago, and you just can't help it. You just can't help yourself. You'll feel sad or happy over a thought or seeing somebody or who evoke these feelings for you in the past. So you feel them again, kind of thing. And we found that's very true with spirit people. So we've got a couple of examples. Actually, one of the projects I'm working on now in 2026 involves a a manifestation of a woman who would appear out of nowhere and frighten the everyday people who were touring this historic home.
Hmm.
And it turns out the reason for that was because she had lost a grandson who was very near and dear to her to cholera or consumption in the late 1800s. And every once in a while, there would be a school child among the visitors and who would resemble the grandson, and she would just appear like
Wow.
as if, oh my gosh, Terrence is back. My grandson is back. And that emotion caused her to manifest and, of course, frighten the children away.
Hmm.
Where'd this strange lady come from? And then she'd realize, oh, that wasn't him, and then melt back into the ether or whatever and disappear. So that's a huge clue right there that, emotion can make things happen. So how do you, for the investigator, how do you evoke that emotion? Hopefully respectfully, unlike those TV shows about prisons where they go in and yell at the prisoners as if they were guards, trying to get them, like using anger and whatnot. I suppose that could work, but we go in very respectfully to wherever we investigate because we're in their home.
Mm-hmm.
They are our hosts, and so we speak to them respectfully. But one of the techniques that we use to evoke an emotion is music. Again, another very universal, in this case, it's a tool, but a universal, entity or everybody loves music in some form or another. And scientifically, music has been shown to have, affect our emotions and people's feelings just by using certain tones and bars and musical phrases, etc. So playing a familiar songs has certainly worked for us as well.
Okay.
On a couple of occasions, and it's as a piece of advice or whatever. I mean, it makes sense to play era appropriate music. Like, don't play rap in a Victorian home kind of thing. So, if anything, you'll get a result. And you're like, get out.
Yeah. Or fuck off. There's a lot of cussing on the other side.
That's true. That's true.
Okay,
Yeah.
so more era appropriate music, less riling them up and come at me, bro. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got you. All right.
Yeah,
all right.
but emotion is a key ingredient, if in evoking a result.
Oh,
So you do get, and we have received or gotten picked up EVPs that way.
Okay.
That tell us a lot.
I got you. Okay. All right. Thank you for clarifying that for me. All right. Next up, you did write this verbatim. I got it right.
Okay.
In many cases, water appears as a byproduct of spirit manifestation.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I have not heard that before. Expound, please.
Well, and we share a chart when we do public presentations. We share a manifestation chart about or illustrating how ghosts can be perceived, starting with a point of light all the way down to full torso apparition, to borrow the phrase from Ghostbusters. And but when they disappear, many times, but I say many times, but if you happen to catch it, it feels like many times, but often, I should say, there's a little puddle that's left in the area where a sighting has taken place, and it's as if the moisture in the air that was used to create that manifestation, the energy, was dispelled, and all you're left was what was left over. I mean, we could joke about it and call it ghost pee, but it's really just the leftover moisture in the air that has become a puddle, and that showed up in one case in Stouffville, the Stouffville Town Hall. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
It's fascinating stuff.
It is so fascinating. Yeah. I guess now that I'm thinking back through it, I guess I have heard of it, just not in the context of what we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
You've heard the crazy dramatic stories of demonic, what have you, whatever. And they leave wet footprints or something like that.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. So very, very fascinating. I learned something new. Thank you. And then final little bit I definitely wanted to discuss with you, and then
Okay.
let's get to our final portion. Um, there's a moment in the book, a section dedicated to this, that is about spirit cleansing. And you had two
All right.
mediums on location, and
Mm-hmm.
both of them were kind of feeling an excess of spirits, and some of them being stuck
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
whatnot. And so they wanted to, and they pushed for a spiritual cleansing to set them
Mm-hmm.
free.
Right. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But this section had me really questioning my own like ethics about this practice, and like what
Mm-hmm.
it is
Okay.
that I believed about doing it. Like you're told it's a good thing. It's a good thing.
Sure.
Set the
Yeah.
spirits free, send them to the other side, all that. Yeah, yeah. But there was a particular, you caught evidence of this. I think it was an EVP actually, of a very
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
upset spirit while this was occurring.
Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
I just kind of want to hear your thoughts about kind of the ethics of the practice, and specifically
Mm-hmm.
searcher groups' convictions regarding this practice.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Oh, thank you for asking. And we did write about this in the manual as well, because it's part of how we operate. So
Yeah.
um, we are big believers in the because we've seen evidence of this, that most places that are haunted have more than one uh, person in spirit there, and there's usually a balance between the two. You have I don't want to say good and evil, but good and not so friendly ghosts, and the good ones, or the more positive ones, sort of police the negative ones and prevent them from going too far. And Richard has probably shared the analogy of a party. Where you come home and you find your kids had a house party, and of course you're furious, and you say everybody out. Um, and then he suggests, well, who leaves? The good ones are the ones that have a little bit of respect and say yes, yes sir, yes ma'am,
Mm-hmm.
and they leave. But the ones that don't are the ones who didn't want to listen to you, and just sort of got some attitude and whatever. Now they're alone, and same thing with clearing. Um, if I can bring it back to that, the idea that you bring in somebody who says that they can cleanse a place, sometimes for money, which we're not too crazy about, but because you're offering a guarantee if you charge money. But anyway,
Right.
And once that clearing takes place, who leaves? It's usually the ones that are good, or policing the not so good ones, and so you're left with the negative ones, and they're completely ruling the roost. So we get an email or a phone call later on saying, I just had my house cleansed, and now it's worse than ever. What
Right.
happened? So yeah, good luck getting the good ones back.
Yeah.
So that's sort of the long answer for why we don't really endorse cleansing. Of course, there are exceptions. Children spirits who are probably wandering around looking for mom and dad. I mean, it's just heartbreaking to think of, and they don't know where, they're confused by their situation, and can't understand why people can't see them or whatnot. So those would be an exception to cross over and go to the light and maybe see some relatives who have already passed on. And in one case that Richard dealt with very early in his career, he wrote about in his first book, Overshadows, and that involved a teenage girl who was being harassed by an older ghost in the same location, and she was helped along by a medium so he could no longer harass her. So, so those are a couple of exceptions there.
Okay.
But all in all, that's our belief system anyway.
Yeah.
And a lot of people agree that makes sense as far as the
Right.
balance and
Right.
setting the balance goes.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just, it was just a turnaround in the way that,
Mm-hmm.
you think about something that is just pushed on you, that, yeah, always do this. This is good. It's a good thing. And but
Mm-hmm.
there's circumstances where you shouldn't. And then, still some exceptions. So
Mm-hmm.
thank you for that.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, you're welcome.
Let's get to the meat of it. Let's talk about EVPs, spirit communication. We have
Absolutely.
some
Yeah.
show and tell here that you were
All right.
kind enough to provide. And I'm just going to hand the reins over to you right now.
Okay. I'm
And
going to get my book.
yeah, so originally, when you introduced this idea, you were talking about, if these are genuine, intelligent interactions, that there's overlooked para fodder for thought, just to
Yes.
set you up. All right.
My term, parafodder. Yeah. Mhm.
I like it. I'm stealing it. I'll give you credit. I will.
I put para in front of everything.
Yeah. All right.
But yeah, these. So this book is. I tried to make this book accessible. If I do a little bit of preamble first, make this book accessible both to people who do this kind of work and are curious about what other teams how they fare in the field, and also accessible to people who have no idea about this world and investigating, but are curious. And so I didn't want to put in too much terminology that would go over their heads, kind of thing. So I did include a glossary of paraphernalia and terms, and included EVP sessions and spirit box sessions that, frankly, I think are quite fascinating as far as thinking deeply. So I'm hoping we could review some tonight and discuss or leave them open to discussion.
Okay. All right. I'm ready when you are.
Okay. If we start with the Waterford Old Town Hall, page 182,
Okay.
there's a segment of dialogue there that, there we go, that was picked up using a spirit box, which is the reconditioned radio that sweeps through AM and FM radio stations so fast that sensible words should not be coming through at all. And yet we get not only words, but sometimes full sentences, as you'll see here. But what stands out, I think, in this particular segment that I share here, as you can see, I was speaking to this radio as it was scanning. And I said towards the end of that list there, speaking with, I think, a female voice that was coming through, referring to another spirit in the same location as being a bully. So I asked her, is he a bully? Can he hurt you? And her answer, or one of the female's answers, was no.
Mm-hmm.
That may seem like nothing to maybe the casual reader, like, oh, okay, interesting answer. But to me, as a researcher, that says a lot as far as going deeper in terms of thinking of how spirits interact with one another. Can they physically, or in their world, is there a physical means of interacting with each other?
Mm-hmm.
Can they, how do they perceive each other? And I asked these questions later on. I think in the Caledon Town Hall instance as well. But can he hurt you? No. So okay. So this person's a bully, and yet maybe she's not afraid of him because he can't hurt this person. I don't know. These are. I'm leading into some deeper questions, but just food for thought. Anyway, if you have any thoughts on this, Kristen.
Yeah, no, just something you said, and I don't want to get too far ahead of it because I know we're looking
Okay.
at others, but just a lot of times throughout these EVP captures, it's the spirits noticeably spend time calling out to each other or for each other.
Yes.
And I think maybe that's where you were leading, but I was just curious, like what are the implications of that? What does that mean? Do they not see each other? Is that what's
That's
going
right.
on? Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. No. This book is several instances of, you're right, a name being called out. Like I'll pick one out. Like, John, where are you? And then you'll get a reply like, I'm over here.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, what does that mean? Like,
right. Can you not see him?
Yeah, that's right. And then, of course, the skeptic will be like, of course, you can't exist. You don't have a body. Well, sorry, or, I'm speaking to another investigator here. We're both telling you they do exist. So,
Hmm.
so please come up with another explanation for how we're getting voices on these, these instances, and
Right.
they're interacting like they can't see each other, or yeah, it's fascinating stuff. So,
Hmm. Well,
but yeah, you're right.
a twist on that thought too. Has it ever been indicated to you in all your investigations how they perceive us in the physical?
We ask, and that's something that we pride ourselves on as well as a serious group. We try not to ask all the banal questions like what's your name, and
Hmm.
what date is it, and whatever. We try to go deeper if we can. Um, Actually, in the last investigation I was on, April 11th, we asked, can you see color?
Hmm.
Do you feel temperature? These are the kinds of questions we didn't get an answer to them, but I'm hoping that maybe by talking about it out loud, this will inspire somebody watching to try that.
Absolutely.
This is the kind of information that we want to glean about what to expect after we leave the mortal coil, um, because we don't know. We
Yeah.
don't know how they can perceive things, and that came from using a proximity meter or an REM pod with all the different colored LEDs, because we were, obviously they go from green to yellow, orange, red,
Hmm.
and we kept on referring to, can you make it go to red for this answer? And then I thought, wait a minute, what if they can't see red?
Right.
What if what if they're literally colorblind, or our LED lights are operating on the physical plane outside of their reality, so maybe they can't see, maybe they only see light but not a color. So I'd love to get that information.
Oh, see, you're asking the innovative questions too. Yeah, I do hope anybody
I'll
who
try.
catches this on the replay, or if you're watching live right now,
Mhm.
yeah, these are fantastic. Ask the questions that they haven't heard a million times before.
Right.
That in
Mhm.
itself may be a trigger, an emotional trigger for them, and
Yeah, absolutely.
and they'll,
Yeah.
they'll respond or manifest.
No, you're right about that.
Yeah.
And another trigger that might happen is when people ask, you're dead, right? Oh, no, 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 no. That would piss off a lot of ghosts, I
Yeah.
think, because to them, they're like, I think, therefore I am. Like, buddy, I'm right here.
Hmm.
What are you, dead? Like,
They're
screw off.
they're
Anyway,
just
and
as real as they ever were. What are you
absolutely,
talking about? Yeah.
absolutely. So
Hmm.
I think it's ignorant when people say, you're dead, right? But you might get a response, but it's not very respectful. Uh, um, if it's okay, we can move
Yes,
on to Old
absolutely.
Paladin, page 197.
What?
Just a very quick line here. Um, this was a recording on one of our camera microphones, where a male said this wasn't the spirit box. This was an actual EVP that said, "We are here from hell." And that sounds pretty dark and scary, but don't forget, folks, spirits can be just as sarcastic and grumpy as when they were in among the living. So
Right.
um, he may not have been meaning it literally, but who knows? Maybe in his living situation or after living situation at that location, it's a kind of hell for him. So
Sure. And I want to
who knows?
clarify for folks, if you're interested in grabbing the book, like nothing as any part of your investigations throughout this whole tour. I never sensed anything like dark or evil or anything like that.
No, no. Mhm.
Yeah, so it could very well, he's being super sarcastic right now.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Moving on to page 205. And if you've got a copy of this book, follow it home, kids. Um, yes. Well, speaking of that, you're dead thing, there are ways you can reword that. And I do in the bottom of the page. You'll see I ask, where is it? Oh, maybe I don't have. Oh, here we go. At the top of the page, if you know your body has passed away, can you tell us what it's like on your side? So again, these are the kinds of questions we ask. And if we just go through the answers here, again, this is through a spirit box. And we got a lot of really interesting responses to the actual questions, which is amazing. So a male said, a bit. And I think I heard it live at the time. So I said, can you describe it for us, please? And then the same male said, did once.
Ooh.
Once was cut off. So did want. And then a female said, Bob, like, don't tell them anything. We get that a lot as well. Stop speaking to the people. Which leads us to another question. Why? Like, what? Anyway, to get through this dialogue, I asked, can you please tell us and help us with that question? And then another female was very quiet and said, can't. Like, very timid. And I said, please. And a male chimed in and said, can't.
Again, can't, yeah.
So then I said, who or what is stopping you from telling us what it's like to live where you are? And a female said, we can't, though. I said, well, can you tell us your name? And the male said, Jimmy. And then I go on to say, we've come a long way, try to appeal to them, like, we're here to communicate with you. So, please use this opportunity to speak with us. And then a male said, we're people. And then another one said, hurting. And it's just like, oh my God. Speaking of emotion, we can be emotionally affected by what we're hearing when we do these things as well. But I included this whole dialogue, to hopefully get people thinking about, and again, asking questions about what it's like to be on the other side. And at the end of the book, I suggest what to do with yourself in this life before you pass on to prevent yourself from being a miserable ghost. But yeah, in certain locations like this, the question did, how can it not come up? What is it like to be on your, not what is it like? Is there a law on the other side that says you can't communicate with us, or you shouldn't give us enough information that we're asking for?
Right. And a lot of times it seems to come up that they think that they can't, or they don't want to, or they're just unable to, or something like that. There does seem to be something there.
Yeah, there's a holding back of information. So the hope is for us, going forward, that we get to investigate as many places as possible, because you really don't know where or when you'll get that little clue that could lead you to the next answer to what life is like on the other side.
Right.
So I hope this is interesting enough for your listeners and viewers right now.
Well, I'm fascinated, so
thank you.
I'm sure they
An
are.
audience of one. That's great. Page 206.
All right.
Oh no, that's the same.
Yes.
It's the same list. Okay, there we go. Moving on to the Orangeville Town Hall. Okay, page 228. And this speaks to what I was just talking about the spirit law, or the rules on their side. Because at one point, as you can see, EVP male A, there were two different males. One said, "Don't ever talk to them," and the other said, "I can't help it." Like, it's almost like the Odd Couple, the grumpy guy, and then the one who wants to communicate with us. And then there was a crack, like a whip sound. So maybe they can hurt each other. Who knows? And then a female chimed in and said, "Why is he helping out?" It's like, shut him up. So again, are there rules? It sounds like there are. I mean, that if anyone can come to an alternate conclusion, I'd love to hear about it.
Yeah.
But even on the following page, it's do not tell him, do not betray us. Papa will get him.
Ooh, so serious.
So, yeah, exactly. Anyway, so fascinating stuff. I mean, these are the kinds of things you don't expect to find on investigations. Certainly not on television, anyway. Page 231.
Okay.
Still in the Orangeville Town Hall. Tony, one of the guest investigators on this one visit, he used the SCD computer program, which is basically a spirit box app or computer app. And he asked, unfortunately, "Do you know that you're no longer with the living, dead?" I'd rather he didn't say that, but anyway. But as you can see by this little section here that it did evoke a response. A cacophony of radio noise immediately, like outrage, like like in the form of static, and just radio noise, as if several people expressed anger at once. And a female said, "He asked," and the male said, "Did you ask for our help?" And then a distorted voice of a male said, "Don't be a fool," and "Hey, Benny," and "It's okay, shut up." So this rapid exchange of these voices that Tony's question seemed to evoke. And then there was "F you, you're done talking to me." And then Tony, who has no idea what has just gone on, what this exchange has just come through, because it was all at once, and I had to, when I listened back to it.
Oh, you had to like pull it apart.
Yeah, exactly. I had to sort
okay.
of parse line by line. He said, "Are you okay with us being here?" And so what I thought was also very interesting was a male going, "Pal, couple years life a day," which sounds like gibberish. But if we apply it to what we're looking for, I mean, I could be accused of like really reaching, but that's fine. But it interests me to think, okay, did you just reveal what time is like to you?
Right. It sounds to me like a distortion of time, and they're whoever that is
Yeah,
trying to describe it or something. Yeah.
that's right. Yeah. I mean, even on this plane, there are arguments for why time doesn't exist, or time isn't what we think it is, from, like a start stop kind of thing.
Okay.
And I think Doctor Who said it best, that time is a wibbly wobbly, timey wimey thing. It's
so
not
true. So true.
It's not a linear stretch or passage.
Right.
So that might give us a clue as well, like to what does time mean on their side, on their reality. And then how did I end this? The male who was speaking from a distance, he sounded very far, said, "We're not talking." You just did, buddy. But anyway,
it's like one foot out the door. Bye.
That's right. That's right. You're like, "Sorry, not sorry." Yeah. So all that was provoked by asking if people knew that they were dead, and you're like, "No." Anyway,
Yeah, I did not like that.
On page 234, again, Orangeville.
Is it
I think
now?
this is why.
I've got 2 for 234. So let me know if this is the right one.
Oh, okay. Let's see.
No, take your time.
Oh, that's strange.
Hey Heath, thanks for coming in.
Yeah. Sorry, folks. Anyway,
I've also got this.
Okay, maybe, how about the other one? Now, here we go. Is there anyone here but besides the four of us? That's what I asked. I said, "What's your name, please?" And the female spelled out Imelda, which shouldn't happen with the spirit box. It should be like that, like blurbs, quick blurbs of radio distortion and whatnot. But she actually said clearly Imelda. Took the time to spell it out. Great. So I said, "Do you work here?" And a male said, "You won't find me." Okay, yeah, no, you're invisible, so no. Because we were working in the theater setting that is now it's in the Orangeville Town Hall. I asked, "Are you an actor?" And then a male said, "I will be." I'm sorry, but that brings up questions of reincarnation to me, and the possibility of living again in the physical. Or was he just messing around with me and figured maybe in his spiritual world he's working at becoming an actor, and he still will be. He'll just be a ghost actor.
Sure. Wishful thinking, yes. Or
Yeah,
maybe
there you go.
He's got a future as a ghost actor, yes.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. And then skipping ahead to did I include the outburst that we talked about, or does that come later? I think. Let's see. No, that comes later. Page 279.
Oh, okay. You want to do that one next?
Ghost dog. Okay, no, this is leading up to the finale here.
Okay.
But yeah, page 279 was very interesting, and again, this speaks to their being able to observe us and our equipment and how we go about our business. And so this was very telling to me. We had a pair of EVPs. A male said, they have to have the time on it. And the other one agreed, yes. Referring to the fact that every time not every time, but most of the times when we come into a room, we tag the time of day allowed for the benefit of the cameras. So when we analyze our data later, we know what time of day that things are happening. So we'll come in and say, yeah, it's 10:35 right now, and then go about our business, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And this helps us recreate the investigation when we go to analyze it. So and of course some cameras have the timestamp on it as well. So I thought it was very interesting to have a spirit actually make the observation. They have to have the time on it. Like, we know what you're doing. So yeah, it's can be very comical sometimes.
Here, real quick, Heath. I think Heath was referring to the ghost actor. He can run the ghost lights.
There you go.
I love
Absolutely.
it.
Yeah.
All right, go on, Peter.
Nailed it. Yeah.
I love a good dad joke.
Mm-hmm. And then to skip forward to 286, I think this is what you alluded to earlier about emotion and how and the emotion /
yes,
clearing
yes,
issue.
yes.
And so the second night that we visited the Orangeville Town Hall, as you mentioned, we had a couple mediums that felt very strongly that there were many spirits in the basement that for some reason weren't there the first visit. Suddenly there were over a couple hundred, and so okay, we'll say that there are, and they knew our policy that we weren't crazy about clearing, but they felt so strongly about it. I said it's really actually not up to me. We are the guests here. It's up to our hosts. So there was our client was represented by a worker at the building, so she had the keys and was walking around with us all night. So it was up to her. So they went to her and said, we're feeling this. We'd like to have permission to clear them. And she, not knowing any better or thinking she knew what was right, said yes. So I thought, okay, and this became an education for me based on what we're going to read now. The results of that decision. So once the decision was made in the council room where we had a camera 2, almost immediately there was a woman who was very, very upset, and she was crying, very upset, and she said, "Damn you for scaring me." And a male, and she was accompanied by 1 or 2 males as well, and one of them said, "Damn you," like chiming in, and she said, "Damn you." And then there was a pause before their inner conversation resumed, and we happened to catch it on microphone. And he was trying to console her, saying, it's okay, But this next line is again another red flag sort of question. What if they free me? What does that mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Freedom, and I think I try to explain this or try to parse this in the book, but isn't freedom a good thing? Why does freedom scare you and upset you? Why are you afraid of going into the light or wherever it is, like a clairvoyant can clear somebody too? Why? Like, why does that upset you? And then as I carry on, a few minutes later, emotions peaked again. And because I think they realized that, yeah, they're going to go through with this. So the male swore, said, "Damn you." And then we caught the female sobbing hysterically. And then the male, as if he was looking after her, saying, "Damn you." And then he said, "Stand over here by me. Like when this happens, I'll protect you," kind of thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, so the clearing itself took place in the basement of this building. So we have no idea whether or not, if you do a clearing in another part of the building on another floor, not even directly above, but another floor and off to the east or west, could whoever's there sort of be sucked in somehow, or can they choose not to join the others don't know.
That's just one of those things we don't know, and at this point we can't
Mm-hmm.
know, and we're making this assumption. I think for the most
Yeah.
part, people are making an assumption that no, I can just clear like specific areas or
Yeah.
specific people or whatever, but we don't know if it's
Mm-hmm.
involuntarily is
Yes.
pulling people that do not want to be pulled, that aren't causing any harm.
Right.
They
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
just want to be there, or they are afraid
Mm-hmm.
to cross over for whatever reason. You'd be surprised
Exactly.
what people have held on to for their whole lives, and it's nothing to us, but they've held on to it
Mm-hmm.
because, and they're so afraid that that's going to be the thing that sends them to hell if they, when they die or whatever.
Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
ghosts
Yeah, that's a possibility.
ghosts can have a ton of reasons to want to stay.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And she's this is exactly what I was talking about earlier. She's clearly frightened, upset,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
were you able to verify after this if that particular spirit was still there? Like, did we?
No, I think this was the second visit, and
Okay.
we haven't. It's not that we haven't been invited back; it's just we haven't pursued
Yeah.
that. But
Yeah.
this was all part of our 2-visit experiment, and
Yeah.
but yeah, no, it was really something. But now that you bring it up again, now I'd kind of like to go back and see if I can find out.
You should
Um,
absolutely.
and
Yeah.
then do a follow up. But
New book.
mhm.
All
But
right.
I mean, we have moved on to other places and picked up some really incredible evidence and results. So
Incredible.
anyway, thank you for sharing the like going through memory
Yes.
lane. But
I know. I'm
I'm really
asking
glad
you to reach back into the the recesses of your
Mhm,
memory and go back and
mhm,
cover it in detail for me.
thanks. Yeah, yeah. I just I love to talk about these aspects, especially, and sort of dig deeper into. It's not just a sort of a book you bring to the cottage.
Hmm.
I mean, it could be, and read as fluff or whatever and get a chill. Great, that's terrific. But I'm hoping people will maybe take those passages to a place of deeper thinking and sort of go, yeah, how does it work, or
Hmm.
what come up with an idea, and then reach us at the lab and share
Yes.
share what you
Yes.
think might have
Reach.
been taking place there. But,
Yes. They're open to the feedback, peeps.
good,
There's a theory I will share with you once we close down and we're backstage again, that I don't know, you might be interested in. You might agree with me on that, but we're running up on time. Well, we've run well over time. So let's just real quick, are your
Mhm.
EVPs evidence captures anywhere online that somebody can listen to if somebody wanted to
um,
tune in and like, hey, let me hear a couple of these?
they are on YouTube. That the searcher group has a channel of videos, including some EVPs there. I'd also like to point out, maybe Kristen will share a link to an audio podcast. A couple of guys years ago called themselves Crash Course in Awesome. Brian and Ricky. They interviewed Richard and I at one point, and then I invited Brian and Ricky on an actual investigation, and so I've sent the link to Kristen to share.
Yeah.
And there's a downloadable MP3 of that episode, and they captured some incredible EVPs that they share at the end of the episode. The whole episode is of them joining James and I on a investigation at a Victorian farmhouse. And they have experiences during the investigation, but at the end they go through their sound clips, and there's some amazing EVPs there. So yeah,
Nice. Yes,
enjoy.
I will absolutely share that. If I haven't already, I might have already put it up and forgot. But
Thanks.
all right, Peter. So yeah, if anybody's still in the chat who wants to throw in a question, now's your
Yeah,
chance. Ask away.
please
But
do.
while
Mhm.
they're doing that, if they want to do that, final questions for you, Peter.
Mhm.
What do you have coming up? Any new developments, exciting news, any sort?
Well, I mentioned I've got two majorly large projects on the horizon. I've already started one of them, and that was April the 11th. And James and I investigated this place. Some interesting evidence came from there. It was kind of quiet while we were there, and cold because we're still getting over winter here in Ontario. But that's thankfully has begun. Um, Richard has started up the lab, which is another piece of news. I personally have, I might have mentioned Richard is working on a book. I too am working on a book as well, which is a deep dive into ghosts and the abilities of ghosts past the physical, excuse me, the physical plane. And it's not, the concept isn't new as far as book goes, publishing goes, but it's an update for the new age, if you will, our contemporary readers, examining people's reports and cataloging the abilities that they've reported their apparitions performing. So something to look forward to, maybe when we pass on.
Yeah.
Oh, I could do that. Maybe I could do that. So so it'll be a fun look. Hopefully, I'll throw in some humor there too. A fun look at what we might expect when we cross over, and fuse it with searcher group theory as well, and try to explain maybe why people have experienced what they've experienced. James is the head of Paris Paranormal Group. I'll throw a plug for him. He is very active in his community of Paris, Ontario, a small town, investigating. I helped him investigate the local library. We didn't see the ghost that was in the New York Public Library, but very haunted place. So he's got a lot of projects on the go as well. So between at least three of the members of the search group, we're having a banner year so far. So looking forward to sharing what we find afterwards.
Awesome. All right. And where is there somewhere specific you would like to send folks to pick up their copies of the book, Haunted Town Halls?
Oh, sure. And I just thought of another piece of news too.
Oh.
But to answer your question, the first question, Amazon in Canada, Chapters, Indigo. I don't think Goodreads sells them, do they? Or is it mostly a review site? But there's a site called Books a Million that you can order from as well. Any good bookstore or dealer should have them.
Okay.
So I just thought of another piece of news. I will be appearing live, unless something happens between now and then. Then I'll appear as a
Don't
ghost.
say that.
This fall in Thunder Bay, Ontario, at what's it called? The Lake Superior Paracon 2026 is the third annual Lake Superior Paracon, and I'll be representing the searcher group, doing our famous or infamous presentation there, and bringing our discoveries to the masses, as far as some of our highlights and some amazing photography that we have not published yet, but are exclusive to the presentation. So get your tickets for Lake Superior and come down for the weekend of October 16th to the 17th.
Yes, please do, guys. You need an excuse to go to a Paracon. You really
Absolutely,
do.
yeah.
So Peter's
It's the right
there.
it's the right time of month or year too.
I know, right? Oh, you scored right in spooky
Mhm.
season. Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, I would be there if I could. It's very far from where I live. All right,
No
Peter.
problem.
So, final thing we'll do. I usually ask my guests for final thoughts, words of wisdom, that kind of thing to close it all out. But in lieu of that, I'd like to ask you a question that you say in the book that no one ever asks. You did answer it in the book, but I was curious if your thoughts may have changed or shifted over the years. After all the investigations and the evidence captures, after all that you have learned about spirits and energy and existence after death, what is your takeaway now?
My takeaway is I don't want to ruin the ending too much, but might as well share.
Is it the same?
It is. No, it is pretty much. And that is to avoid becoming sort of a miserable spirit who can't seem to know what to do with themselves and how to live with themselves. I would encourage us, while we're still living, to love one another, be kind to one another, live as good a life as possible, as as a good person, and don't go into the afterlife with regrets if you can help it, because they will tend to log you down and weigh you down in the afterlife, that we found as ghosts. And once you're there, there's not a whole heck of a lot you can do about it unless you get help from people who communicate with you and try to help you sort of move on, not necessarily into the light, but maybe see things differently. As investigators, hopefully we're coming into these places saying, we'd like to interview you. And if you have a story to tell that will help you to move on to the next plane, we'd love to hear it, sorry, tangent. But yeah, no, I would encourage people to, when it's time to go, try to be happy. try to find a happy balance, and just know that death is not the end. There's a lot more to explore after we leave these bodies, and it can be beautiful if you believe it can be. So, yeah.
That is quite the takeaway. I appreciate that.
I was more succinct in words, but anyway.
Well, yes. Still pick up the book because, it's a beautiful, beautiful takeaway, beautiful ending. Awesome book. All right.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
Author of Haunted Town Halls, Paranormal Investigator, Peter Rowe. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. It's been just just an honor talking to you and learning from you just directly. I had a great time talking with you, but
Me too.
We are going to continue our conversation backstage.
It was great speaking with you too. Thank you for having me on.
You're so welcome. All right. Let me stick you back and hang out for me, and I will close down the show.
Good night, everyone.
All right, you guys. Oh, thanks for those who hung out with us. We definitely went beyond time tonight. But yes, learn more about Peter and the Searcher group. And whilst you are picking up your copy of Haunted Town Halls, all at the links below, I will be hanging out with Mr. Rowe in the PGP backrooms here shortly. If you would like to hear that chat, catch it, just head on over to Patreon. That's where I upload all of these after interview backstage private guest chats for my patrons. I offer a few other perks over there as well, but go take a look, pick the tier of your choice. Visit patreon.com/paranormgirlpod. For some final announcements before we close it all down. The show is officially dark right now. We're just on a mid-season break, but the guest train is a chugging along because I just can't help myself. I can't help myself, you guys. So I hope that you will join me on June 4th for a talk with screenwriter and horror fiction and science fiction author Eric Miller. I've been really looking forward to that one. Sounds like it's going to be a fascinating discussion. Rock journalist and investigator of things Fortiana, Mr. Maxim Furyk, will be rejoining us July 9th. That was an awesome talk before. We talked about his book, Cold Region Hoodoo. It's a fabulous book. It's in like my top 20. And August 6th, you guys, a return guest who is long overdue for a check-in will be coming back on. So I've had so many people ask about this guy since our interview in 2022. So I'm thrilled for this upcoming blast from Paranorm Girls Past. Mr. Vince Fields will be joining us for a discussion on astral projection and lucid dreaming. Now, he has gained some new experience and insight about the nature of the beings that he encounters when he is out of body, but also he's gained some new insight and experience about the nature of reality itself. My mind was blown the first time I ever talked to him, so I'm just really intrigued to learn what he's picked up in the last couple of years. And of course, as I usually do, I will be going live with Beer, Booze, and Boogeymen. That is happening June 13th. And we are taking live calls, sharing your stories of entity possession or just, some kind of influence over your body. It doesn't have to be a full-on possession, oppression, okay? It can be just like a little tickle from the spirit world. I don't know. They might do that. Submit your stories ahead of time. Visit Ghost.Beer. Again, the show is June 13th. and we start at 7 p.m. Central. Hope to see you guys there. If you enjoyed tonight's program, please do me a favor and like the video, whether you're watching it live or catching the replay. This will also be made available on audio platforms in the coming days, so be sure to toss a like and review over on your favorite listening platform. But that is a wrap for now. So I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your night. I sincerely appreciate you all. Until next time, stay safe, keep the nightlight on, and sleep with one eye open.
Most people don't realize how much their personal information is being bought and sold every day. Data brokers are making billions pulling details about you from public records and the internet, and then packaging and selling it, usually without your consent. That's how your information lands in the hands of scammers, spammers, even stalkers. It's why you get endless robocalls and why ads seem to follow you everywhere. That's where Aura comes in. Aura actively removes your data from broker sites and keeps it off. They also instantly alert you if your information shows up in a breach or on the dark web. But Aura goes beyond data protection. With one app, you get a VPN, antivirus, password manager, spam call protection, dark web monitoring, and even up to $5 million in identity theft insurance, all backed by 24/7 US-based fraud support. Other companies might sell just credit monitoring or just a VPN. Aura gives you all of it, together, at the same price competitors charge for just one service. Start your free trial today at aura.com/remove. Protect yourself now at aura.com/remove.